Welcome to the Obsessed with Plants podcast. I'm David. I'm obsessed with plants with my co-host here.
And I'm Chris. I go by Permaculture FX, and I'm a terrible dancer. I am the whitest dancer, no rhythm. I can't even clap in rhythm. I was that guy at church that was like,
that one guy throwing everybody off.
Yeah. I am the stereotypical white guy clapper dancer, just really bad. The tea that I got, you got ginger peach. I'm doing some Japanese sencha tea or Chinese sencha tea. But the honey that's in both of our tea is my friend Phil and Kathy Robertson out of Altamont Springs. His real name is Phil Robertson, and his bee company is called Bee Dynasty because Phil Robertson is also Duck Dynasty. Yeah. So he did the whole Bee Dynasty thing. But super good honey, so that's what's in our tea today. So we are doing a kind of a mini podcast episode.
It'll be quick. It'll be a quick one.
Little bit shorter. But I do think it's a question people ask a lot when first getting started in the food forest. You know, they talk about the first question is, how long am I going to have to wood chip? But then they also go, hey, I got weeds. How do I deal with the weed problem? You know, that's in my garden.
And that's always where people start getting a little bit stressed as you start seeing things pop up and it gets out of hand really quick. You're depending on how your system's set up. So.
Yes. And in the ideal world, we're all doing a little bit every day and it looks pristine and it looks nice.
Well, let's be real.
Life.
Ain't nobody doing that.
Yeah,
unless you're retired and you're just doing it to stay physically fit.
And even then, shuffleboard calls your name, you know? It's like, you got to go to the pool.
Bingo night.
Yeah. And, oh, man, the golf cart times, in the villages, it's it's a
golf
thing,
cart accident, more like.
It's crazy. You know, life happens. So the garden is not going to be pristine all the time. Even if you go to Harry P. Lou Gardens, they have weeds that are in the garden.
And they also have full-time staff plus interns plus volunteers plus.
And still have weeds.
And they still have weeds.
So it's okay. So I think looking at it from the perspective of it's okay to have blemishes. You know, it's okay for us to not do TikTok filters on our faces while we're doing this podcast. Though sometimes I feel like I need it.
And a controversial take, and people may not like this take, but the weeds are there for a reason.
They are there for a reason.
And so it's, if you get rid of them, they're just going to come back.
Yeah. And the primary reason for that is nature wants to cover the soil.
Nature will find a way.
It will always find a way to cover the soil. Nowhere besides the desert is there bare soil open. Yep. It's this weird thing that in the early, probably World War II really was when people started going, okay, we got to do these gardens, and they didn't know how to garden. So bare soil with their row of corn, their row of beans, that became the thing more out of necessity. And they just didn't have the experience then to know, but they were dealing with weeds all the time. And nature will find a way to cover the soil, whether it's with grass, it's with weeds, it's killing your plants and they fall over and your decaying plant matter becomes the thing covering the soil. Nature will cover the soil.
Well, and if you think about your well-kept lawns and stuff, that was a bragging right because you were rich enough to employ somebody as their full-time job to make sure you didn't have weeds in your lawns and stuff like that.
So the American dream, the American green front yard with only grass monocrop,
exactly.
It's just not normal.
But, you're going to have weeds. And if you don't want weeds, well, you got to plant something you want. I always go for my go-to saying, plant the weeds you want or you're going to get the weeds you don't want.
I need to start using that phrase actually. Say it again. Plant the weeds you want
or you're going to get the weeds you don't want.
I do like that.
I mean,
I'm adding that to my repertoire right now.
You just got to fill the space with something. Yeah. And you can have, it can be beautiful. It can be pretty.
Yes.
Or just something that's easy to get rid of.
Yeah. Back in the early 2000s, there was this documentary called the Back to Eden film. There's two gals out of Texas, I believe, or no. Sorry. Washington State are the ones that kind of filmed it and went up there with this guy named Paul. And he just, dives into that nature was created in a way to cover the soil. And that's one of the most important things that we can do is just keep that soil covered pretty much at all times. So for people that have let it get out of hand a little bit and it's got a little wayward, it's got a little crazy, How do you get it under control? Because
just manage it too.
Or manage it, because it can be overwhelming if you don't know ways to do it. So what we're going to do today, we're going to talk about 6 different ways. There's probably 8, but we're just going to say there's 6.
This is what came to mind.
These
are our go-tos, our go-to methods.
So 6 go-to methods of how to reset your food forest in the way that you want, because there's a lot of ways that you can do this.
Tons of ways.
Now, the first way I will say is weeding by hand. And my mom does such a good job at weeding by hand.
Yep.
She is so faithful, like beside her flower bed in Michigan, and you can see her cute little Martha Stewart basket there. She walks around the garden every morning. Yep. She's got her tea in her hand because she doesn't do coffee. And she's sipping it, and she fills up her basket one time with either deadheading spent flowers or weeding. And she does a little bit every day. And that is just her little act of faithfulness. She doesn't listen to music. She listens to the songbirds, but she enjoys that time in the morning of just, I'm going to deadhead a little bit. So she doesn't ever have those days where I'm going to weed all day long, because she does a little bit every day. And she is so faithful with that. And there is a real benefit to weeding by hand. Like you were talking a little bit earlier about like the soil disruption.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going through by hand, you're obviously going to be more careful. Doing anything in the garden, whether that's watering, whether that's weeding, you're going to be so much more careful about your precious plants. You can get up underneath things. If it's like a bush or whatever, you can really pull weeds right up to the thing, versus if you're using like a weed eater or scythe or whatever.
That was my sound effect. Do you like that? That was real. That wasn't even like a, cute thing.
It wasn't a soundboard. But you're going to damage things if you're just going to quickly, run through with something, versus weeding by hand. Obviously, you're going to get every last little thing. You're not going to get any roots. You're not going to disturb stuff. So
totally.
That's your careful way of doing it. Your heavy labor, heavy reward.
Yeah, and you hit on something really fast about making sure you get all the roots. And that is one benefit by hand, that if you get in there and you rip it out, you can get all the way down where that root is going to be less likely to come back and do damage, as time goes on.
We have a weed here in Florida that I'm sure a lot of Floridians are aware of, the Biden's pilosa or Biden's velva. It's a great medicinal herb. It's really good, but it has little sticky seeds that it can get on you. But the root system, if you just whack it with a weed whacker, it's going to come back. The root structure is extremely strong, and so it's but that's one of those things. It's going to grow in a climate that is maybe neglectful, that other things are struggling.
It's doing its job.
It's trying to fill in the space and leave other plants better than it found it.
Yeah. And weeds are a great way to read the landscape and see what you need to do to adjust. So I'll use 2 examples of chicory, for example, grows on the roadside a lot. And one of the beautiful things about chicory, one, it has a deeper root, like a taproot shaped like a carrot. And what that does is it helps break up soil compaction. The second thing is chicory is really good at mineral mining. So it's bringing up the boron and manganese and magnesium and bringing it back on top of the soil, which ironically, those are 2 things that are severely depleted when you have gasoline or oil damage. Think about the sides of the road. So when we see chicory growing on the sides of the road, it's actually nature doing its job to cover the soil, but it uses the right weed to do the job, which is
and that might be where, if you are trying to get an understanding of your garden, maybe if you already have a plan to do some of these other things to control the weeds, maybe just start with the hand weeding at first, even if you don't have any intention of doing it long term. Just so what are the characteristics of these weeds? Are they shallow root? Are they deep root? Are they showing up in your bare sections of the yard? Because then alternatively, you can do things to discourage those. If it's not so much that you don't want growth there, but you just don't want this particular weed, trying to get it away.
You get to know those weeds,
like nutsedge, for example. Nutsedge is a horrible one, and you pretty much have to hand weed it. There's not really any other options. They're going to come back. They don't like rich nutrient soils. They like something that's a little bit dry, usually low nutrient, that is occasionally getting water. So what do we get it usually in our gardens? Because it's bad soils and you're dumping water on it with sprinklers.
Exactly.
Perfect. But as soon as shade forms, as soon as other things form, they don't like to live anymore. Even if the nuts are still there.
Nature knows how to cover it with the right thing. It's going to do its job. So the first way that we control the weeds is weeding by hand.
Yep.
Secondly, I would say is smothering it. And I use the contractor paper method. So the image there is, contractor paper first, and then we put our mulch on top, whether that's straw, grass clippings, wood chips, wood shavings, whatever it is. We mulch on top of that.
And you can use things like cardboard too if it doesn't have a lot of dyes. The reason you like contractor paper is because there's not a lot of gaps in it, like
and
a
no
cardboard
tape.
box.
Yes, cardboard boxes. I always get it where it grows up between the cracks, and it drives me nuts.
You kind of have to do like 2 or 3 layers where you like overlap them, but then so the contractor paper is a quick and easy. You just roll it out.
And then I always go 2 layers thick. I like the 2 layers thick of contractor paper. And it's $14, in the painting section to get a huge 140, 50-foot roll.
Some rolls are like a heck of a lot thicker. I've seen ones that are like double thickness. You can get away with 1, but they usually come in a lot shorter. So it's kind of a...
Yep. And I still double layer those. And the nice thing with that method of smothering and then putting your wood chips up, it's a great way to handle a reset that hasn't gotten too out of hand. Now, if the reset is getting really bad, like you got 3 or 4 foot tall weeds, you probably are going to have to weed whack that first to knock those weeds down, damage the weed a little bit, and then cover that weed up, and then, put your stuff on top of it, that way. So way number 1 that we do with it, weeding by hand. Number 2 is covering it up, smothering it. What's a third way for you that is really good with, this weed control thing?
Just accept your fate.
Yeah.
You're not getting rid of them. You're going to have them whether you want it or not. It obviously depends. I think it comes down to identify your weeds. Yeah. Because a lot of times, like we talked about earlier, they may be filling a niche that you may need. And it honestly may be the cheapest way of filling it, because you can plant things that are going to fill the space. But if you have weeds like Biden pilosa, like I talked about earlier, I don't know if this is Alba or pilosa, but it's one of those. It's medicinal, and it's a good miner of nutrients, and it is able to survive in depleted soils. So, I mean...
And a great pollinator. The butterflies and bees love it. And if you're in the north, dandelions are probably the most common weeds. Like dandelions and plantain and chicory are the 3 big ones. They're all edible. They're all medicinal. They're all amazing pollinators. So it's like, if I can't beat them, join them.
And you can rip these out and try to find something else. But honestly, nothing is going to grow in your garden better than the weeds that are already growing there. Oh, yeah. So if it's something that's beneficial, we have, hairy vetch? Hairy vetch in Florida. It's a nitrogen fixer. Yeah. And it's a little bush, and it's not the prettiest thing, but if it's growing there and it's not bothering you and it's not getting in your way, just leave it. It's a nitrogen fixer. When you weed it every now and again, it'll fix nitrogen, and otherwise you're going to be paying for a lot of money for fancy plants that are going to do essentially the same thing.
Correct. And I would say with that, you can't beat them, join them mindset. We also need to be aware that some people live in an HOA where you can't have weeds like that growing. No. So it may or may not be an option. But I would say in the further back areas for most people, living with the weeds isn't okay.
If you have a couple acres, you keep your front section a little bit cleaner, and that's, your pretty area that you go out and have, your patio, and that's where you drink your tea. And then maybe the back sections where it's like, well, you have to go there intentionally. You just mow yourself a little path. And that's where I think wildflowers come in.
Yeah, I do love wildflowers. That image right there has got some coreopsis, some blue stem grass. It's got some of the native Fakahatchee grass. It's got some Laetris and gay feather. I mean, it's got some really fun stuff in there. And that was a wildflower area that I did a couple years ago that I just didn't want to ever weed the food forest. So it's just going to be wildflowers, So I think, planting that understory densely, that's our way number 4, plant the understory densely. It can be with wildflowers. It can be with clover. It can be a cover crop. I'm a big fan of the edible cover crops, like the daikon radish and the purple top turnips, or wheat or rye or barley, or what's the other one? The pretty flowers, buckwheat. Growing buckwheat in there. Beautiful ways to do an understory.
And there's multiple ways. You don't even have to necessarily have something that's like a grass alternative or like, the meadow alternative. You can put things like Fakahatchee grass, where it's a little bit more upright, a little bit more aesthetic. It might take a little bit of extra work, but it is going to reduce your weeding because you just have to weed around an already well-established grass rather than having to weed the whole area.
Right.
I mean, there's multiple ways.
Now, when you look at aggressive ground covers to help with that cover cropping, what are some of your favorite kind of Florida subtropical zone 9 through 11? What are some of your favorite go-tos for those ground covers in general?
I mean, for year-round stuff, you've got the holy trinity of ground cover of hardy ground covers. You got your perennial peanut, your sunshine mimosa, and your frog fruit.
Yep.
Now you're not going to be able to do all three because no matter what, I don't think I've seen a single property that grows all three, but they all perform a very similar niche. They are a thick, dense ground cover that can grow in with grass, so you can still keep that grass feel without, allowing other things because it'll fill in all the little gaps and that sort of thing.
Let's touch on each of those real quick. So frog fruit, I think, is one of people's favorite natives because it's the host plant for the peacock butterfly. Very, very pretty.
They have cute little little flowers with tiny
Very
little petals on it.
Yep.
But they grow very well next to asphalt.
Yes. Yep. They thrive in soil that's really been damaged, and they thrive in soil compaction as well. If you have light, airy soil, it doesn't always grow quite as well. Now, a little bit about sunshine mimosa. What do you like about sunshine mimosa?
I like it because obviously natives are good.
Yep.
But then also they have such a deep taproot. I mean, their taproot can get 1-2 feet deep, and we're talking about a plant that at max is going to grow 8 inches off the ground, and that's it really reaching for it. So it's going to be growing well with your grasses. It's not going to compete with them.
Good soil stabilizer.
It also aerates because of its taproot.
Yep.
It creeps in vines, so it does spread quite a bit, but it's never going to take over anything.
Right. And I would say the one thing
cute little flowers.
Yeah, the Dr. Seuss Horton Here's a Who flower. The thing that I would be careful of, like you said, it has a very deep taproot, is don't plant that one around septic. That's the one that I would just
immediately
avoid your septic areas. Now, perennial peanut's the opposite. That has a very shallow root system, very fibrous. It's a much easier one to grow over a septic area. It doesn't grow as densely all the time, but it's an easy one to mow and reset.
I was going to say the sunshine mimosa doesn't really handle getting mowed very often.
Right.
It can, but the peanut's going to be better for that.
Going to be better for the mowing. And I would say a fourth one to throw into that, it's not a native, but is Panadol, the Plectranthus Barbados Roth. And it's Arcanus Roth. And it's a really good, smells a little bit medicinally like cannabis, but it's great at keeping rodents away. So it's a good one to have under avocado trees, around a feed shed, mulberries. You do not want it in an area where you're walking through a lot because you will smell like cannabis. So don't go into pick up your kids at school or into the library afterwards.
You'll get a few looks.
You'll get some looks, or some offers.
Well, yeah, but if they try to smoke that, it's that and what cassava.
Cassava.
It's my two things. You plant those together, and you're gonna have somebody break into your yard
Somebody's
thinking they're about to win big.
Yeah.
It's
crazy.
They're in for a bad day.
Oh, it's crazy. All right, way number 5 to control the weeds.
What about northerns? Did you say too many of them?
Oh, I didn't say any northerns.
Yeah,
so
because
some of my favorite, northern climate ones for zones 3 through 8. I would say first is sweet woodruff. Grows really low to the ground, pretty white flower. The white flower I used to use to basically make a cordial. So you can add it into Kool-Aids, for kids. You can add it into a white wine and sweeten it up. So I really like sweet woodruff. I love wild ginger. Wild ginger, it's not really an edible ginger, but it gets these cool lily pad shaped flowers and can grow right up against the trunk of the tree and then spread all the way out. So I think it's a very attractive one, for a ground cover. So those are probably my two favorite.
Kind of like lily pads almost.
Very like lily pads.
So if you like that aquatic look.
It's cool. We actually used them at the Kansas City Renaissance Festival, which we helped do a lot of their landscaping a couple years in a row, in the Mermaid Cove because it looks like underwater, fun. So it was kind of a neat adventure. So I would say those are my favorite ones for the colder climate.
But then how do you manage all those things?
Both of those go dormant in the winter and they come right back in the spring. And that's it. And they both grow so dense, weeds don't really grow up through them, hardly at all. They do better in shade, part sun, not as much in full sun, but they do better in that part shade kind kind of avenues. So way number 5, which has my favorite picture because there's chickens unashamedly.
His chickens probably.
Way number 5 is hire your chickens or hire your livestock, whatever
your ducks,
you've got.
Your sheep, your goats.
To go through and do the weeding. The nice thing with hiring the animals, which those are some of the birds that I had up in Michigan, and they're going through the like clover field in there. And anytime I would let them go in the clover field, they're so happy. They're just like, just talking to each other, talking to me for days and days and days.
This photo has so many more chickens. I just had to crop it down on the one, but
and a lot of clover. That was in our apple orchard. Just super pretty. So using the chickens is great because it's not just getting rid of the weeds. They're turning it into compost. They're fertilizing at the same time. They're doing bug control. They're doing insect control. They're scratching, and so they're aerating the soil, bringing in good, healthy bacteria, back into the microbiome. So I love hiring the birds to go in. Also, because it's free food, and organic chicken feed is like $35 to $38 really a bag right now. So it's like anytime I can offset that by weeds, absolutely. And if you can't let your chickens go through it, I would say at least like my mom, put the weeds in a basket or the deadheads in a basket and be willing to throw that over to the birds and let them just put the weeds in their chicken coop. So if you have a stationary coop that's not mobile, you can still throw all the weeds, all the scraps, all the garden waste back into the chicken coop.
Well, and you can really get them really thinking about stuff too, because like I've seen a lot of people who have a stationary chicken coop and they have like a mulch pile or a scratch pile, depending on where they are. And that's where they throw all their weeds and stuff too. So even if you're hand weeding and you still want to get the benefits of that.
Lots of benefits from it. Just don't throw it away. Like that's the main thing. Don't put it in a bag and send it out to the road. No reason for that.
And in most cases, not every animal, I'm going to disclose that there's always that one niche case of that one animal that likes to eat the poisonous stuff. But for most cases, a lot of the animals won't eat things that they're not safe to, especially chickens. And so they'll just kind of step on it, they'll poop on it, and then it'll just decompose.
Yep, exactly.
At least that's been my experience. Anyway.
Easy. And then I would say way number 6 to control the weeds, if you're trying to like reset this food forest, is
kill it with fire.
Fire. What was that there's that old video of like muffins, and at the end of it, he was like, fire muffin. And that's what I think of every time we say that. So I like this method. It's stress relieving to me. This is how I weed the driveway where the rocks are, is I don't do hand weeding. I don't spray it with vinegar. I burn it. It's just so much fun. I'm a pyromaniac. I've always got like candles burning, incense burning. I'm lighting a campfire. I could sit by the fire all the time. So using that torch, so much fun. But you got to be wise. You've got to be wise.
You got to be careful.
Especially right now, like it's drought. Dry. It's drought in a lot of places. Very, very windy. And you don't want to get too close to your existing plants because, homeboy, you'll kill your fruit trees. Like, and you get too close to those trees, with the torch, because the heat radiates a foot or 2 feet. So you may have to, burn around the tree and then do something else next to it.
And it depends on like how big your weeds are. If they're, if you're getting up to your knees, then fire may not be the best option because
not so much.
But I mean, there's some native sections that I have like up in the front where it's all like drylands, pinelands, things, and those can handle a little bit of fire. And so that's actually more mimicking that natural cycle of fire and then rejuvenate. I personally like, if there's a new area I'm setting up, I like to burn it all. And then I like to come in and then put the contractor paper. Then smother it. Because then you have that that you're stressing out the plants you want to smother already. That's good. Then you have all those chemicals and minerals that come with burning it. So you get that,
100%.
All that carbon and potassium and yada, yada, yada.
You get all the things. And the only downside I would say with the burning method is that you do have to go back and then cover your soil anyway.
Well, I think that's with all of these though.
Yeah.
I mean,
because nature's going to cover it.
Because you stunted them, but then in most of these cases, you don't want to take nutrients away from the site. You want to leave it there in some capacity, whether that's you're composting it, bring the compost back, you're using birds or whatever to eat it, and they're leaving their manure. All of these things you don't want to take away from your garden. You want to leave the nutrients. Well, then that nutrients is still there, and something's going to try and eat it. So you're just going to be back where you started with the same weeds unless you do one of these methods.
So really, it's a 2-part question. It's how do I control the weeds? But then the second part of it is what am I going to fill that void with? Am I going to fill it with wildflowers, with compost and wood chips, with a cover crop, with whatever it have a cover weed or whatever? But you're going to have to cover it with something. The bare soil is only going to be bare soil for a minute, but it gives you that nice instant gratification. I've got to reset. I can get this under control. And there's a different application for everything. You know, for some people, the burning method is going to be the best. For the next person, just smothering it, covering it with wood chips, that's going to be the better option. But the thing to keep in mind is that we are working in synergy and in harmony with nature, not against nature. Yeah. These weeds are doing a job that we need to be doing with nature itself.
Absolutely.
And also, my tea is done.
Mine's literally not. Done. It's too hot. I've barely been able to drink mine.
Oh, it was great. So while he finishes his tea, if you could just take a minute, like, comment, subscribe. Feel free to ask questions there in the comments below. It was a great time. Hopefully this was a little bit helpful to you to have a few extra tools in the tool belt, and we'll see you all on the next one.
Yep. Later.